That's okay. So that's interesting. I don't remember saying that, but does it sound like me? It does. So
I don't know
I,
why I
I'm
went loser with that. I'm not sure
yeah.
where I was going. It's fine.
Hey there, and welcome to episode 4. That's right, it's episode quattro of the Better Merch, Better Marketing podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kirby Hasseman. Joining me today is Jade Kreider. Jade, how are you?
I'm so good. The sun is shining. I don't think it is for you, so apologies, but the sun is shining here and I'm happy about it. And I've cleaned the house, so I feel good.
Yeah, man, that's really good. Yeah,
All the wins.
yeah. And I'm excited for you. I'm excited that it is nice there. As we were recording this, it was nice for a couple days, and then it really dropped pretty drastically today. So I am not terribly pleased about it, if I'm just being honest. You were asking right before we started recording if I was okay, and I'm like, I'm fine. My hands have been cold for 6 hours. I just can't warm up.
Yeah,
But other than that, I'm doing great. It's
good.
always good to chat with you. If you are new around here, this is the Better Merch, Better Marketing podcast, where Jade and I talk about, better merch and better marketing. And it's brought to you by Hasseman Marketing. And our big announcement is we have set the date on our customer show. It's September 23rd here in 2025. And I know that feels like it's a long way away, but it'll be here before we know it. So just get it on the calendar. We'll get you more details as we go. And if you need to learn more about Hasseman Marketing, check us out at hassemanmarketing.com. All right. So for those
Killed that.
who, yeah, we did okay, right? Yeah. For those who are new, again, we are just trying to take on things that are topical, things that will help you do better merch and better marketing, get perspectives. Obviously I'm the old guy in the room. Jade is, just a smidge younger.
The
And
baby.
so, yeah, that's right. So we've got the father-daughter perspective. We've got the Gen X, Gen Z perspective. And today I think we'll jump in on several topics really from those perspectives. And so I'm excited about that.
For
Um,
sure.
but one of the things I think we've done a pretty good job of here in these few episodes we've done so far is just taking on things that are topical. We talked about TikTok, and we've talked about other things that were the topic of conversation.
Yeah.
And so today I want to do the same thing and talk about tariffs. Now, don't stop, don't click away, don't run. We're
Even
like,
though I want to too. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah,
It's gonna
yeah,
be
that's
fine, I
right.
promise.
No, because if you're like me, you're tired of hearing about this to a degree,
Hmm.
and that's fair. And we may get into that, but we just wanted to give sort of some basic updates for your business so that you sort of have some idea of what's going on in this. Is that fair, Jade?
It's fair. I'm gonna let you go.
We discussed talking about this, and Jade was like, I don't know anything about tariffs. So but what I would say is, and I'll keep this brief, folks, just to give you kind of an update on it. It's been the talk of um, all news, all social media, all of the things. And if you've been living under a rock, essentially, President Trump threatened tariffs against Mexico, China, and Canada. As of just like a day or two ago, as we're recording this, he has pushed pause on the tariffs against Canada and Mexico. And so there's a little bit of a pause on that. There is a 10% tariff that at least has gone into effect against China, and China has kind of put tariffs against U.S. goods as well. So we bring this up because we live in an industry of imports, and this will affect what you're doing when it comes to your branded merchandise. And so we just want to kind of let you know what's going on. As we both said, we are not experts on global economics, but we are trying to stay informed. I mean, literally an hour or so ago, I was reading an article from our association about this. So it's something that we are paying a lot of attention to on your behalf. And so what I wanted to do, Jade, and feel free to jump in on this, is
Hmm.
just give you, the listener, you, the viewer, a couple things you can do, because there's just a lot of things that are going on about this that none
For
of us
sure.
can do anything about, right?
Hmm. We're
Yeah,
just gonna roll with it.
right. Well, and as a complete side note, if you're tired of hearing about this, I get it. Right before we started recording, I said, I've probably either blocked or snoozed on social media 40 or 50 people. because it's all they're posting about all the live long day. So if you're tired of hearing
Mhm.
about it, I get it. I don't know if you're running into this too, Jade.
Oh, for sure. So we'll try and make it fairly quick, just give you a couple little pointers, and then move on to more fun topics, if that makes any
Fair.
sense at all.
It does. So really, I just want to give you two things that you can do other than blocking and snoozing people on social media that will help your mental health. And honest to God, it's made a big difference in my feed.
Fair.
Um, really, two things that I just want to give you a couple things, especially when it comes to branded merch. Number one is share your budget with your
Hmm.
distributor partner, whether that's us or whoever you work with. I think sometimes, and I don't know if you see this, Jade, but it feels like sometimes people don't want to share their budget.
Hmm.
It's like it's a secret and they're holding that close to the vest. And the problem is we aren't able to do as good a work for them. And quite frankly, it wastes a lot
Right.
of our time and theirs. But so if
Hmm.
they will share the budget so that we know what we're working with, I think that would be helpful. Do you agree?
I for sure agree, and I think sometimes there's a misconception that as the salesperson, I'm going to, if you tell me that your budget is $500, I'm going to give you an item that's 501. Half the time, that's not true.
Yeah.
A lot of times,
Right.
I actually try and stay a good bit underneath of it, at least personally. I'm not here to scam you for every single penny. I'm not here to take every single penny. We want to help. Our
Yeah.
goal is to be your partner. We want to make your life easier, not harder. So we're going to do our best to try and keep it under budget, but having that budget, especially with the tariffs and things coming, it makes it easier for us to go, okay, that's not even on the table.
Right.
Here's some items that are. So it really helps at that part.
Yeah, that's the key. I think that we will not show you things that won't work. you know,
Yeah, I won't get your
uh,
hopes up.
yeah, and then timeline. I didn't have timeline as part of it, but share budget and timeline just out of the
Yeah.
gate so that we have a place to go with. So that's number one, and then number two, I would recommend, especially over these next few months, be open to alternatives. I think
Hmm.
that what I've seen people do is they will just email us and say, "Hey, I want this pen, or I want this item, or I want this," and then that's fine. We can source whatever.
Hmm.
But if it's one of the items that is going to be affected, that's not something that we have control over. So understanding that now we understand your budget, so we can show you the item that you're interested in, but we can show you some other things that will accomplish what you want to accomplish and still fit it. I think
Hmm.
is really helpful. So
Yeah. And for what it's worth, one of the things that we do that you can either ask your person or just work with us, um, plug, is that we work really hard to do no surprise charges. So before we place the order, we send you a sales order with everything on it, shipping and everything included. So you know exactly what you're paying. And you can say go with it and say, hold on a second, didn't know
yeah,
about that charge. So you know right up front, and you're not going to be surprised like, oh, you didn't warn me that this went up $20. We really, frankly, I am trying to do a better job at it because it's not something I've always been the best at, just because I didn't even think to check. And so I'm doing a better job of really going on the website, making sure that I have all the extra charges in there, so you know exactly what you're paying up front. So one thing, something worth working on to do better with the tariffs
yeah.
and just in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, as Jade said, we've spent enough time on this. We won't belabor it,
Hmm.
but just know that we are constantly looking at what is happening, so and how that affects your budget. And if we're going to be a partner, just we'll treat you like a partner. You treat us like a partner. I think it'll work in everybody's favor. So cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, we're going to roll into the next thing that is not anything to do with tariffs. I think we're all excited about that.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about ways to encourage and incentivize employees. I think we're hearing a lot from a lot of different people that the turnover is a little bit quicker right now. And I have an opinion on this, but I would love to hear yours first, Dad.
Yeah, I think this has been something that has been a challenge. And just as background, we work with a lot of different industries. So
Yeah.
from manufacturing to financial to retail to education, you name it, we have clients in those spaces.
Hmm.
And I've often said that as we usually have a pretty good idea of how different trends in the economy are going because we are working with different industries within it. And
Hmm.
really, for the last 3 or 4 years, attracting and retaining top talent has been a challenge.
Good
Um,
talent. That's the key
yeah,
word. Good
right.
talent.
Exactly. And it's really expensive to replace and it takes time and all that sort of thing. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's something that we as an organization have focused on because it's been a challenge. Is that fair, Jade?
I think it's totally fair. And to just say this from the Gen Z perspective, I think it's something that people don't think about. I started work in 2020.
Mhm.
So I started work in the middle of COVID. I started my real big girl job out of high school, out of my training that I went to. I was an esthetician for a little while, and I started in a time where everyone was hiring and
Mm,
everyone was willing to pay more. And so it's something to consider when you're looking for Gen Z, is that we're not willing to tolerate quite as much. And I know that sounds like a crazy thing to say, but hear me out on this. If you're not being treated properly, if you're not being appreciated, our generation is willing to find better. Our
mm,
generation is willing to leave and find someone who will do that. And so I think it's an interesting thing just to consider that for me, I would rather be paid less money and
mm,
treated better and have better people and have a better work environment, because it's just more important to me, and I learned that I can find better. And so
mm,
I think that's the thing with our generation, is that we learn that we can. And so you really want to take the time to appreciate these employees and really make them feel worth make them feel their
mm.
worth and make them feel appreciated and valued, so that they do want to stay with you. I think that's a large part of it. There's a lot of different ways that you can do that, but I think that perspective of our generation starting work in a time where, like, millennials and Gen X, like, live to work. We work
Mm,
to live. My generation
mm.
works to live. We don't need that job. Well, we need the job, but like, we will get the one that we want, if that makes sense. So I think that's an interesting thing just to consider when talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I also think you talked about everybody was hiring, but it was also hiring at a time when most organizations were willing to be flexible with things that they were never willing to be
Fair.
flexible with. So,
Valid. It's a
jobs
great
were
perspective.
always regional or local,
Mm-hmm.
like you had to get a job in your town. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just not the case for the last 4 years. And though people, yeah, exactly.
I work in Colorado, and that was never a
Yeah.
thing before. So,
Well, and so I think that that being an option has just opened up eyes and opened up options.
yeah.
Influencer positions were not a thing 10
Right.
years ago, right? And so
Yeah.
just understanding that we live in a different work environment and a different
Mm-hmm.
work culture across the country is important to understand. And
Well, and I mean it in the
so,
best way for
understand.
what it's
Yeah.
worth. Of just like,
Yeah.
I want to be in a spot where I'm happy. I love our team. I love who we are. And so that's made a world of a difference for me when I left a place that I just wasn't super happy at. And that's really all it was, is that I may have made a little bit more money where I worked last, but I love what I do now, and I love the people that I work with. And that just makes the world of
Mhm.
a difference. And I think we do a pretty good job at our office of making everybody feel loved and welcome. And I think that makes the world of a difference. Um, and actually, one of the things that I spoke about in Vegas was something that was kind of out, I feel like, for a little while, maybe with millennials, but just in general, it was out for a little while, was to do awards and appreciation. Um, and I feel like awards are a thing that I don't have any. I don't have any trophies on my shelf that like
Okay.
say like, oh, Jade's been in the industry for 5 years. I haven't been in the industry for 5 years, so I haven't earned it yet. But I
That
just
would be a
mean, like,
lie.
that is a thing that sounds silly, but I would love to have that sitting on my bookshelf. And I'm not putting that on you, Dad, just so we're
Uh,
clear. But
yeah.
I'm just saying, when
Yeah.
you get the
I'm making
awards, I think
notes.
it, yeah, okay, good, good. But I think it's something that showing appreciation for your employees would make a big difference. And awards are just one way that you can do a functional award, or you can just do a beautiful looking award and really show that appreciation.
Yeah, the other trend that we have seen with a lot of different organizations just living this down is just new employee welcome kits, because I think that we lose sight of how the new employee really does feel like that new kid in high school, where everybody
Mm-hmm.
else has friends, everybody knows where the bathrooms are, everybody's got cliques, they're part of clubs, they understand the language and the vernacular, and they don't. And giving a new employee just something, a couple things that have the company logo on it, make them feel a part of
Mm-hmm.
the team. Um, I think studies are showing that it is allowing people to not turn over as quickly because they
Mm-hmm.
feel a part of the
Feel a
team
part of
already. So
something.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The other one is just quarterly gifts.
Mm,
It doesn't have to be huge. It can be something small, but just something, whether they're remote employees or whether they're in the office. If you're a remote employee, getting a package at the front door is like
mm,
Christmas morning. But even
yeah,
if you're at the thing and you have to stop and you stop in and get your gift, there is something about getting even just that little thing. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just that little something is just like, hey, thanks for all you're doing right now. We really appreciate you. Sometimes just hearing that and getting a little pack of candy. That's all it
mhm,
takes some days. It's just to
yeah.
feel appreciated. And so I think quarterly gifts can be something that, everybody can do and focus on and make a big difference.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I mean, I talk a lot, and Jade's heard this, but we talk a lot about doing quarterly appreciation for your best clients, and you
Mm-hmm.
should. Um, just the studies are
Show it.
inarguable, right? But my argument is, if your employees are the most important, then creating a quarterly appreciation program like Jade's talking about can see a really great return. And then I guess so two other things, and then whatever you want to add. Number one, we do a total wellness. We kind of feel like a really good, vibrant health and wellness program is something that can involve people. It can make them healthy. It can make them mentally healthier. Fact is, mentally healthier employees are better employees, right? And so we certainly work on those. But the one I wanted to mention is, it literally occurred to me this morning, is in March there is an employee appreciation day. So if you don't know where to start, that's a good place to start.
Just
so and it's a good timely thing. So
yeah. And of course there's so many products we could show you, but there are certain ones that just hit home a little bit better that really can show that message. So really do your research and find something that you think will resonate with your employees. I think that's huge, because doing something super random isn't always helpful, but having something that you really put some thought into makes a big difference. So
love it. Anything else on that?
I don't think so.
All right, cool. I appreciate your perspective on that. So thanks for bringing it up. So next up, we kind of want to talk a little bit about purpose-driven branding. This is something that has really grown in the last couple of years, and I think it's been driven by the world we've lived in, but also from Gen Z. Millennials and Gen Z have really shown a change in their desire to support brands that support what they care about, right? And so I kind of wanted to. I wanted to kind of get your perspective on this, Jade, about why you think this is a thing, or what that means to you. I don't know if if you can think of a brand that you support.
Absolutely.
So, and then my take will be like, hey, here's a couple ways that you could do this. So what's your take on this?
Absolutely. I think it's really interesting. And I think TikTok has done a little bit of it, just to be candid. But I think our generation seeks not like-mindedness, but similarities in companies. I'm more likely to shop with the small business down the road because I want to support people that are equal to me. Not equal to me, but you know what I mean when I say that. People that have the similarities that I do. And I think that's a big thing. So like for me, I love to support businesses that are women-owned, minority-owned. That's a thing that I focus on. Also in my house, military owned, veteran owned. That is a big thing in our house. So it's a lot of times I think I was talking to my sister about it actually. It's just the similarities. You tend to go towards the thing that you're similar to.
Values. Similar values.
The same values. Thank you. Goodness, I couldn't think of my words. But I think that's just a big thing that our generation is going to pull to, is just to find the things that we have in common, and we're going to shop with those people if we can. Now, don't get me wrong. If they also donate to a local charity, I think that's also a huge deal. And I think if you're looking at a couch, I'm using this as a very vague example, right? If you're looking at two different couches and there's one couch that donates $100 to charity of the couch that you're buying, and then there's one that doesn't, you're going to buy the one that donates to the charity. So I think it's also just a bonus kind of selling point. But I think having those similarities is something that just kind of helps drive the business, and just showing that you support local and things like that can make a big impact. At least on our generation. I'm speaking for a whole generation, which feels illegal. That's what I found for me, at least, is that I am pulled to companies, like one of the ones that's sending me samples that I have coming this week, that is a women-owned, minority-owned company, and then they make really cool clothing as well. So things like that can be really helpful.
Yeah, and I think the funny thing about it is we talk about it now, but I believe that's been a thing for a long time. It's just that those values were more localized. Again, I would go to a local business, and we talk about buying local. Why? Well, because they support the local Little League and they support the local this. Well, that means for a long time, that's one of the ways that you measured whether your values lined up. Does that make sense? Yeah. Whereas now you can do that on a larger scale. You can share that on a larger scale. And so, I think that my caution, and I think we've talked about this in the past, is I see people who are jumping on every cause bandwagon, and they don't really believe it. So like if your values really align, then I think it makes a ton of sense. If you are trying to trend spot, then I think it's a good way to get caught, because I've
That's what I
seen
was
a lot
gonna
of
say.
brands.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't really support the LGBTQ community, changing
Right.
your profile picture to a rainbow doesn't really do anything. Like,
Right. If you're gonna do it with your whole heart.
yeah, and because then when there is, the inevitable hater or the inevitable pushback,
Hmm.
it's fine, right? Because those people
Yeah.
aren't for you.
Well, and we see it like, and this is a very niche thing, but I see it a lot in the military community.
Mm.
I'm part of 15 different Facebook spouse groups that are very entertaining, by the way, because there's so much drama. But you'll find that they are quick to recommend other military-owned companies. If it's a jewelry, there's a jewelry company I just followed because it's a military spouse and they live in Georgia. Um,
Mhm.
but there was one posted the other day that claimed that they were a veteran,
Mm.
and then all it took was a quick Google search that they were not a quick veteran, an actual veteran, and they were lying,
Mm.
which is, yes, a big deal. But also, just like, if you want to go USA made and you want to be straight USA made, be straight USA made products. Like, that's awesome. But don't lie and get those products in from somewhere else. So it's just
Yeah,
about being honest and being genuine with people. I think that's a large part of it. And so
yeah.
your community will come to you when you do that.
Yeah, I agree. And for what it's worth, if you're listening to this and you're like, look, I like the idea of having my brand be tied to a purpose. We talked about number one is just be authentic with yourself. So
Yeah.
if it's
Mm-hmm.
something that you really do care about, then I think that there are ways that you can align it.
Mm-hmm.
My second thought is, and then once you do that, then you can create your own cause. You could create your own
Yeah.
event. You can create your own
Mm-hmm.
5K. You can do things that you donate to. So that's number one. And then the third
Mm-hmm.
idea is there's an organization in our industry called Promo Cares
Mm-hmm.
that has encouraged suppliers and distributors alike to essentially create give back programs for specific products or specific
Mm-hmm.
lines of products. Those are great because then you can feel good about purchasing a product where a portion of the proceeds goes to that. So, a
Mm-hmm.
supplier, just to give them a shout out, Snugs USA, they have the Wounded Warrior Project. And so
Mm-hmm.
they, Basecamp, I believe, is the name of their product line, which includes
Mm-hmm.
drinkware and a bunch of other stuff. But Basecamp, a portion of those proceeds go to the Wounded Warrior Project every year. They hundreds of thousands of dollars have been
Mm-hmm.
donated to that, and you don't have to do anything other than purchase their drinkware.
Mm-hmm.
So there's ways for you to be purpose driven and be cognizant of those
Mm-hmm.
without having to create your own 5K, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and all it takes is simply just asking if that's something that's important to you too. Is just, hey, you mentioned that there's a company that does clothing that's women and minority owned. Just
Yeah.
mention that to me. If you want something that's gives back to veterans, just let us know. We have a ton of those in the industry, and like he said, we have a resource that we can go to help us find all those things as well. So let us know. We will find those, and we will help you make a difference as well if that's something that is important to you and near and dear to your heart.
Cool. Good
Good.
stuff.
Anything else with that one?
I think that's good enough for me.
All right, so the next question is, was Kirby right or was Kirby wrong? Today, Kirby was wrong, which is always my favorite. When I first started with Hasseman marketing, again, I was doing aesthetics for a little while, and I switched here because I just needed a temporary job. And I remember on the phone, Kirby said the words, "You can be my employee, but you'll be remote, and I don't think you're really going to like working from home." He probably doesn't even remember saying those exact words. He was wrong. I love working from home. I could work from home every single day of my life and never complain. And so that's where Kirby was wrong this time. I love having my little home office and wearing my sweatpants to work most days.
Okay, all right, that's okay. So that's interesting. I don't remember saying that, but does it sound like me? It does. So
I don't know
I,
why I
I'm
went loser with that. I'm not
yeah,
sure where I was going. It's fine.
yeah, it's fine. Uh, so my perspective on working from home is different than yours for sure.
For sure.
And so I think what I've said publicly is I love the ability to work from home. I do not like being forced to work from home.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy having a place to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
A week or two ago, I was sick. I could work from home and I could not infect everybody. That's fine. Now, when I really formed this opinion, um, was I had kids at home. It was during COVID, and
Yeah.
we had a dog, and it wasn't my
We had
dog, or
two
maybe two
dogs.
dogs, and
We had two dogs.
yeah, that sucked out loud. Like I hated every moment of that. Like it was terrible. Like when
Yeah.
somebody kids weren't coming in the door, the dogs were barking, I couldn't concentrate. I literally hated every single moment of that. Like the way that it happened was like when the van lifted, and every region was just a little bit different. But like I want to say that they said we could go back to work, and they didn't finish the announcement, and I was on my way to work. Like it was, I was like, I could not wait to go back to an office and work. And so I
To
get
be fair,
that.
I think it's one you're happy to be wrong about because now I still work for you. Because if I
Yeah.
hated working from home, I probably wouldn't work for you anymore.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But it is interesting, the perspectives, because I think I guess what makes me think is that now the big pushback is everybody is being forced to go back to work, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
fascinated by the broad strokes that people do with this, because
Mm-hmm.
your point's a good one. Like you are enjoying it, you actually work the same hours, even though it's a 2 hour time difference.
I
You
just get
get
done
all
a
your
little
work.
earlier.
Yeah, well, but that's fine. But my point is, we there are customers who don't know you don't live in
Mm-mm.
Coshocton, right?
Correct.
Because the work gets done.
Yeah.
Not everybody's like that.
Yeah, and it was actually a topic when we were in Vegas of how do you trust people to work from home, and
Yeah.
it comes back to trust. You got to find the right people. You got to have the right people in your office, and you got to keep them. There's no perfect way to solve the issue, but I have found that I actually get more done at home because I get easily distracted, and so it would take
Mhm.
one person walking by my office while I was in Ohio this summer and squirrel, and I'm gone. I was
Yeah.
disappeared and would get nothing done. I find that my productivity level is much more here. So it's one of those where you weren't sure and I was right and you were wrong.
Okay. I
I
like
don't
it.
know
I
that you're
like it.
actually wrong, but we're going to take
It's
it.
fine. It's the name of the section of the podcast. So
Yes.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
good.
So let's shout some people out is really what's next.
Yeah, so let's do that. If again, if you haven't looked or listened to this podcast before, we're trying to just push out some positivity on a regular basis, and we call out things, people who are doing good, who are investing, who are giving back, all those sort of things. And today, I want to call out the Baltic State Bank, which is a customer of ours in, go figure, Baltic, Ohio. But they are expanding, and they just made an announcement that they're going to be doing a banking location in West Lafayette, Ohio, which is only about 5 or 6 miles away, but an area that doesn't have a local bank serving that area as of this moment. And when you see the community being served in a thoughtful way, and being served in a thoughtful way by good folks, Jason Starcher, Chris Harstein, and their whole team at Baltic, I was really excited to see that. And it's also an investment in our community. So shout out to Baltic State Bank for doing just that.
That's so cool. I learned about this when we were talking about what we were going to talk about at the podcast, and I am excited that that's happening. It's going to be really
Yeah.
cool.
So what I would say to you as you're listening to this, please, if you know of any shout outs, the good news is as you start to look for things, we're starting to stack them up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know of somebody who's giving back, who's volunteering time, who's doing good work in the community, please let us know. We'd love to give them a shout out, and because that's just part of the plan, and I think we
And
really
start
enjoy
looking
doing
for
it.
it because it's funny. You start seeing all kinds of positive stuff happening when you start looking for it.
I agree 1,000%. All right, so we've covered tariffs, incentivizing employees, why that you should have a brand with a purpose, and you thought I was wrong about something. I'm not sure about that. And of course, we've
That's
given
right.
shout outs. Yeah. All right. So this has been fun. So thank you so much for listening and watching and engaging with the comments. Please give us, your feedback, what you think in the comments of wherever you are consuming this. We'd love to hear from you. Jade, this has been fun, as it always is.
Always good. It's
Yeah.
lunchtime here in Colorado. Not for you, but it is for me. So I'm going to go have some lunch.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this one, and we'll see you guys next time.